mainly, we have to accept that there will be errors. So Vasim Khan writes about how in his book, there's one sentence where the woman who is the first female detective in an Indian police force jumps out of her police a jeep, and she closes the door. And someone wrote to him to say, jeeps at that time didn't have doors, thank you very much. He's just like, okay. And he said to his editor, just make sure I never have another sentence specifying how someone gets out of a car, because we're just going to avoid that. And Margaret Atwood says, someone will find an incorrect detail and they will write to you. It is inevitable. You should expect it. That it's just how it is, and there will be errors.
I just want to point out to put in our Quill Cup writer's ego curriculum, just kind of weave it into this, that it's so smart to accept that there will be resistance, and what you can control is the author's note, okay? Accept that there will be errors. That makes the perfectionist in me just kind of like wriggle and jiggle, and I don't like that. But it also is so good to hear that, like, just it's gonna happen. You're human. You worked really hard on this novel. You did the best that you possibly could, and now moving forward, I will never have someone explicitly slam a door ever again. But I'm sure the tension was great in the scene, right? And so to speak on that, like, writer's ego bit, let's say that in the future, you expected that review, you expected that email to just like pop up, your nervous system is going whack. And a great way that we try to protect ourselves is to start saying, like, well, I'd love to see that reader try and write this book, right? And just like we start to get into grandiosity, and we put the reader down, and instead, can we just tolerate and celebrate that we just wrote this beautiful historical fiction novel, and it's not going to be perfect, but like, man, it helps somebody see this character in a new way, in a new perspective. And maybe if that reader got caught up in this historical detail, they are doing their own ego work, because they would not have sent you that email if they didn't also have a lower one down ego experience where they just needed to tell an author who worked really hard on her book that she got something wrong. Yep. That's their own ego work that's happening. You are not responsible for that. And in fact, I'm going to bring up what one of our coaches in Hedgie's, CK Soren, says. She says, I won't feel that I've made it as an author unless I get my first 1-star review or I get my first that was historically inaccurate, note. And so let's kind of have fun with imagining what our future readers might say or do, accept it, and then already have a plan in your head of like how you're going to react, how you're going to, I won't let myself get into grandiosity. If I do, I'll recognize what's happening. And maybe the solution is to just thank them for spending money that you now have because you wrote the book. Right? Maybe that's enough.
Yeah, and I mean, Margaret Atwood, when she writes her books that are historical, such as Alias Grace, she writes them first, and then she gets a team of researchers to research details such as underwear, color of bathrooms, and she still has a detail. There's still errors for her. So she, huge amount. I don't know how many research there were for Alias Grace, but there were many, and there's still errors. It's inevitable, and so we can again take that kind of writer's ego and go, okay, it's never going to be perfect, and we can't achieve that. But maybe I can get people to empathize with a story on powerful women, or I can create people to think about history differently, that there was, in fact, a woman of color who achieved great things coming from an enslaved background, so that we can take our themes of challenging different traditional narratives, or proposing different ways of seeing things, whatever our theme wants to be, and we can take delight in doing that part well and give up trying to be perfect, because you're never going to finish your book. Actually, you're just going to sit there for every single word going, oh, look that up, oh, I need to make sure, was it what mountain was the granite actually milled from? Not sure if milled's the right word. So there we go. I can fixate on that.